Good afternoon, everyone. Today is March 30th, Friday, 2023. It's a fairly rainy afternoon. It's about 4 in the afternoon. And, yesterday had weather that was much nicer. Uh, Anyhow, as you can see, this is, a bit of a step up from my, previous video recording. This one I've actually got a bit of background in. As you can see, I can, scroll around and you'll see all sorts of different stuff that reacts as I go through this Wikipedia page, but we're not really here to talk about rabbits, so we can just hide this for now. Alright, and we can go ahead and do this. Which is pretty nice. Yeah, I thought that this probably would have been a too professional or too high quality thing for me to do, because I'm not gonna spend a single cent on this. All of this is free. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's pretty fairly easy to set up. Um, the app is the app is free. It's just called OBS Studio. Um, but anyhow, aside from that, there was just kind of something I wanted to talk about, and I've gotten a few questions in the past. Of course, none from this channel, but just a few questions from my friends and family. And it's not that big of a deal, but I figured I should probably just address it before other people start asking. And I kind of do a thing where I'll say something and then I'll whisper the same thing I said again, but it's in a whisper, so it's very quiet. But sometimes my mic picks up on it, sometimes people just hear it when I talk to them face to face. It's not something I can control. It's completely involuntary. I'm sure if I tried hard enough, then I wouldn't do it if I paid a lot of attention to it. But there's kind of no reason for me to pay attention to it. It's not that big of a deal. I don't figure it's disruptive. But for the most part, it's not something I do consciously. So, yeah, for the most part, let's just say it's out of my control. Alright, well, today I've kind of have this burning question that I kept thinking about on the car ride from from school. And wow, speaking of, it's Friday. First week back from spring break, and time goes by super fast. Uh, if you know, if you've talked to me before, I like math, I like physics, and the reason I like them is just because I think it's really cool, right? Being able to understand the world in such this really nice way, right? It's all in numbers, it's all in equations. You can write it down, see things. It'll fairly predictive, right? Obviously, there's a random elements and things you don't account for, since if we accounted for everything in the world, like fluctuations of wind, just air resistance alone gives me a headache with the calculus I have to do. I'm not that I'm not that smart of a guy. But anyhow, this idea of being able to just understand the natural world through numbers is just super fascinating to me. But a question I've had is are math and physics tools we use to solve the mysteries of the universe? Or are they just an explanation written in a language we can understand? And what I mean by that, in other words, is the natural world necessarily governed by these physical laws so much as they're just patterns we observe? Like, I know that a lot of math and physics can predict things that we don't have, concrete evidence yet, that we haven't observed. And I'm pretty sure the black holes were an example of that. I might be wrong about this, but from what I remember, they were actually something that people worked out through math and physics and laws around that. And turns out black holes are real, right? We've gotten pictures of them, and I think they've also worked out through math that white holes might be a possibility. But of course, we haven't seen any of that yet. Um, but I guess there probably is an answer to my question, but what more or less what I'm saying is what does it all mean, right? Why these laws? Why these numbers specifically? In some introductory physics courses, you will learn that acceleration due to Earth's gravity, when you drop things, it'll accelerate towards the ground at roughly 9.8 meters per second, right? That's a that's a fact that they teach you in school. Well, why 9.8 meters per second squared? I'm very sorry, I forgot the squared. 9.8 meters 9.8 meters per second squared. Well, why exactly? Well, later on in gravitation units, you'll learn that, okay, well, because Earth has a certain mass and a certain radius, and you can just plug the values of this Earth's mass and radius into the equation, that gives you the acceleration due to gravity on a certain object. And we do get that it is roughly 9.8 or 9.81. But that equation has like a certain gravitational constant, right? And I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I remember that it's a very arbitrary number, right? Like it's so random. Why this number? Why not like something nice? Why not 5? Like what, why not 2? Why not 1? Why is the gravitational constant this number? Like it could have been something else, right? And I'm sure there's like reasonings behind this that like I haven't learned about. Like, oh well, he. I'm pretty sure Newton came up with that law. Well, Newton figured it out through all these sorts of other mathematical things that solve to that. Okay, well then why those mathematical equations? Like, if you kind of get what I mean, right? Like, why these laws? Why not something else? Right? So it kind of this leads me to wonder how far can we get with our current set of understanding with the world's math and physics, right? Anyway, that's not a very developed idea, I'll be honest. That's just kind of something I just randomly came up with while waiting for mom's car to drive by and pick me up. Um Maybe if I do more research and I can probably answer my own question cuz I'm pretty sure an answer somewhere is out there, but it was just something I was really curious about and didn't really put in the time to research yet. So I'm just noting that down for future in case you want to do some research in that area too, in case that interests you. Uh, Anyways, just kind of an interesting thing to think about. Um, Another thing that kind of came to mind was I have philosophy class. It's actually my favorite subject in Unit 2. I guess a close second is chemistry. I think chemistry is also pretty cool. Um, but it's the last block of the day, and usually the one that, I go home with the most impression of, because it is the last. And my teacher said something that I thought was kind of interesting. He said, like, whenever people ask me, well, how do you know the world is real? How do you know if anything is real, right? Like, he always just told me that those people annoyed him because, all right, sure. Let's say the possibility that the world really is just a simulation or a video game or just a long dream, and when you die, you wake up, right? But we're here to experience it, right? We still kind of give a shit. We still are acting in ways that are considered socially acceptable and are considered conductive to a good life, right? At least that's what we want to do, right? There's this very real world that like we're well real in the sense that we can perceive it. It becomes part of our experience, right? It part of like our understanding, right? So why wouldn't that be real even if it is a video game or just a simulation or just a whatever? Well, why would that make it fake, right? um he said that, whenever people ask me that question, I just want to like pinch them, and they'd probably go like, ow, why you do that, right? Well, see, you felt that was real, right? If the world wasn't real, or like, so I guess like even if the world wasn't real in the sense that everything actually exists physically and is not just some output of some random code or whatever, and it's not just something that your mind came up with. Well, even then, things like that still have like their bases, right? They still exist in some way, shape, or form, right? So even if like the world wasn't real in the sense that, this just is this, if you kind of get my drift, um it's still experienceable in a way that we can just call it real. So it's kind of like just I guess he thinks it's just an annoying question. Like, how do you know it's real, right? Well, how does it matter? It's real to us, right? And I guess what that reminded me of was, back in COVID. Obviously, I didn't go to school in person. I spent a lot of time at home, and I spent a lot of time on the internet as a result. And it was just kind of thing people were talking about, like determinism and human free will, right? I think they were talking about this specific experiment someone did. I don't remember the details of it, but again, they were just arguing like, what if free will really is just a lie, right? Like our lives are predestined, and everything is already laid out for us, and there's kind of nothing we can do, and like everything is already predetermined, at least in terms of our human lives are predetermined, right? And people were treating it as if it was something really, really scary and really frightening, I guess. Um, really mind blowing and depressing, I guess. And I can understand that, but again, I personally, I just think I was never really much too scared about that because I think, in a sense, there are already a lot of things like. All right, my main point was, even so, like, say that this is true, right? Really, you just have like a destiny for you already that is completely out of your control, right? What would that change, right? You're still going to live your life. You're still going to make the choices that you think that you want to make, that you decide, you make the decision in your head that you are going to make those decision choices, and that is what you do, and that is what you, as far as you are aware at least, that is what you are completely in your power to do, right? Even if there is there was something else telling you, some sort of code written into the universe making you do these things, this is like what you believe should be done, right? We're still acting out of our own volition. um I don't know if that I pronounced that word right. We're still acting on our own accord so far as we are aware. And even if it really was written in the stars, written in some sort of code in the universe, what are we going to do about it, right? If it's really helpless, if this is really the only way, then I guess my way of looking at it is like it's a not a big deal, right? Like with other inevitable truths, eventually there has to like come to a point of acceptance, right? Just accept that there really is nothing you can do if you are, let's say, secretly someone's like, or some 4D creature's character, that the 4D creature is deciding to write whatever they want instead of, I don't know, giving you the freedom to choose and diverge from whatever path might be laid out to you. Um, and I know a lot of people think that like the idea of destiny is really stupid, right? Like nothing is just because. Nothing is a predestined, I guess. I keep looking out the window. I'm sorry. I know I the head keeps going that way. Um but what I think is, like, obviously what happens in your life is a consequence, is partially a consequence at least of your choices, right? Your decisions, what you choose to do. But also, and this is something my English tutor told me a while ago, and it really stuck with me. Um, he said that, people act based on what they believe is true, or people will do, or people make their choices based on what they know. And this is a very simple statement, right? Like, I guess on the surface it seems like it doesn't seem like much because yeah, duh, people will just do whatever makes sense to them. But I guess if you like really pick it apart, the implication, or at least what I took from it, was that everyone's backgrounds and identities and experiences, a lot of it is not out of their is not in their control. Like, for example, you can't choose who your parents are, you can't choose where you were born, you can't choose what kind of childhood you were raised with, you can't choose, for the most part, what kind of people you meet, right? And these will invariably impact the decisions you make later in your life. So how much freedom do you really have in that regard, right? Um, I guess I came up with this nifty little analogy because I like analogies to help me make sense of this thing. Say you take a dice roll, right? You um shake it around in your hand a little bit. You drop it onto a tabletop, and then it chooses you a number. And for the most part, we understand that this number is random, right? Um, but say you were to somehow repeat this dice roll with the exact same conditions, exact same fluctuations in the air, exact same little movements that your hand did, exact same side that the dice started to roll on, exact same duration that you rolled the dice with, why would the outcome be any different, right? Um, I guess what I'm trying to say here is, why would if you take two people and they go through the exact same things in their life and they start off with the exact same, I don't know how to say this, I'm not a biology person, genetic basis, and they develop in the same way because of they're exact same, like, neurologically and everything. why would they develop any differently? Why would they choose to have different things in their life? And I'm I guess maybe there is some sort of random factor or a random chance that just isn't accountable for by these identifiable differences, right? I guess um I'm not I'm open to the idea that there might be free will, but what I'm saying is even if there isn't, why do you care, right? I mean, I'm sorry. Why do you? It's not really something to really be afraid of because it won't. It's okay to care about these things, and I mean, hell, I care about them too. Like, oh, when I first heard about that concept, I thought it was pretty darn scary. Like, wow, my there's just a plan that my life has to follow, right? Um, that's that's not a very happy thing to hear about. I don't, people like being free. People like being able to choose what they do. But for the most part, what I mean is like it's going to be fine, right? It's I guess I know I sound a little dismissive, but hopefully you understand what I mean, right? It's it'll it won't take away this kind of knowledge won't take away from the freedom that you already know to have. It just gives a new name to it, if anything. And I think the possibility that the universe is deterministic, which I don't know if it is. I don't know a lot of things, and one thing I really want to make clear is that I don't know, okay? A lot of these videos are going to be me asking questions because I don't have the answers for them yet. I'm going to maybe I can go on Google and find an answer cuz the internet is great because of that reason, or maybe in the future they'll come up with an answer. But the thing is, I'm not trying to I guess I'm not trying to like tell you anything. I'm just trying to like let you know the way I'm approaching this problem, right? I don't know. I don't know. To sum it up, I have no idea. I'm completely open to the possibility of being wrong. um, if you come into my comments and tell me, Mark, actually, this is wrong. This is what you said. I will say, oh, okay, understood. I see. Um, in any case, yeah, that's just what I was thinking about. I lost my train of thought earlier, but I think I pretty much got it out. And you know, it'll be fine. I think whatever truth there it really is about the universe and the world, it's going to be okay. I think it won't detract from my experiences on Earth. It won't detract from I have a bunny, I have my family, and I like to spend time with them. Right? It's not going to make that any less valid, I guess, because I'm still experiencing it. It's still processing in my head, right? And one last thing that sometimes I do get this a lot. I know people don't really get this anymore in like fairly progressive societies, and I live in West Coast Canada, right, which is a pretty accepting and progressive place to new ideas. But even still, I do get this sometimes that the questions I ask are too big or too ridiculous or just not applicable to real life. Like why are you asking these questions? You sound so stupid, right? Is This is not something you really should be concerning yourself with. But I think um as much as I said that as much as I voice my opinions on some other stuff, I never think it's a bad thing to be curious. I think so long as it's not like actively harming your spirit, like not making you into a worse person or like actively disrupting your life, being curious I think is a good thing, right? I think um being open to new knowledge, being willing to learn, just being able to accept that you might be wrong and there's some things that you just don't know. I think that's a good thing. And I don't have much more to add about that. I know my brother once told me about this species. I don't exactly remember what kind of species it was, but it existed a long time ago, but it eventually died out because it just wasn't curious enough. It wouldn't do new things, it wouldn't explore. Eventually something bad happened to, the place where it lived, and the entire species of animal ended up dying out. And um yeah, It was just they just weren't I guess curious about their surroundings, right? They wouldn't want to make new discoveries, and the they went extinct. They're extinct now, whatever animal they were. Uh, but anyhow, that's about all I have to say. Okay, I think thinking back on it, I think they really just exhausted the natural resources. I think, yeah, it might have been like a very early form of like human, like one of not Homo sapiens, but like something before that. I don't even know if they ever even existed, but it's just some species that they're not like humans as in like us. They're like really early like primates, I think. Uh, anyhow, uh, thank you. Good night. And at the end of the day, never let anyone tell you that your questions are too big. Keep asking. And no, I'll see you next time.